Vertov wrote of editing, of montage. To make montage is to organise pieces of film, the frames, into a cine thing. It means to write something cinematic with the recorded shots. He freely intercuts scenes from various cities, Moscow, Kiev, Odessa, using the montage technique of creative geography, as the Soviets called it, to create a fictitious city representing all the main Soviet cities. They considered editing of the image, montage, the key to successful films. They'd been influenced by the films of D.W. Griffith. His intolerance was shown in Russia for many years and was rigorously analysed by the budding film directors. Vertov wrote of creative geography, "You are walking on a Chicago street today in 1923, but I make you nod to Comrade Volodarsky, who is, in 1918, walking down a street in Petrograd. He acknowledges your greeting." Lenin affirmed the importance of film as a propaganda tool and nationalised the film industry. Many painters turned from bourgeois easel painting to designing theatre decors and posters. Soviet poster design became famous. Kaufman is shown as the intrepid cameraman at work, risking his life for a shot. The foot caught on the train rail is Vertov's parody of a common narrative film cliché. The dynamic cutting of the passing train seems to awaken the sleeping woman. Black frames are cut into the movement here to add a strobing effect. Dziga Vertov was influenced by the Russian art movement constructivism, which had sprung from Tatlin's constructed sculpture and Malevich's suprematist painting, and until the Soviet government censored it, it permeated all fine arts, literature, drama and cinema. Constructivists believed that film was eminently suitable as a means for artistic production. Vertov is using the constructivist concept, the art of fact. The woman washes. Associational editing relates the action to street cleaning. Associational editing, of which there is much in the film, often has a humorous or ironical effect. Use is also made of visual metaphor, simile, rhyming images. Vertov wrote, "We go to the movies to blow up the movies, in order to see the movies." The Vertov group Kino Eye condemned romantic narrative cinema, calling it poison for the eyes, or borrowing Lenin's comment about religion, opium of the people, and promoted a documentary reality where the camera penetrated everyday events to reveal their hidden meaning. They wanted to free cinema from being just a medium for recording the performing arts. The idea was to create something entirely new and purely cinematic. Man with a Movie Camera celebrates the act of filmmaking and the role of the filmmaker within society, interacting with other citizens and workers who are making their various contributions to society. An eye superimposed on the camera lens, emblematic of the Kino eye, scans the scene. The constructivists wanted to bear the device in their architecture to show how reality is aesthetically transformed into art through a process. And Vertov does something similar with the reflexive nature of his film. And yet the film is also a very humanist document, with quite poignant footage of the Soviet people. Vertov departs from the usual linear structure of narrative cinema, reflecting the complexity of an urban environment and the dynamism of a technological age. A form of deconstruction is employed, similar to the avant-garde theatre of the period, in which texts from the classics were freely rearranged according to the principles of dramatic montage. The film is also related to practicing poetry at that time, especially the poetry of Vladimir Mayakovsky, who wrote a piece called The Man with the Pencil, a celebration of the poet's practice. Vertov's brief shots are the equivalent of Mayakovsky's 1 or 2 words per line, creating energetic rhythms. Both like to thwart the narrative expectations of the audience. Mayakovsky's poems also dealt with everyday reality rather than invented narrative. The two were good friends. Mayakovsky told Vertov, "The Kino Eye is a lighthouse of the film world." Vertov and Mayakovsky both held their artistic visions and art in general above politics and defended freedom of expression. They both railed against the public for not making an effort to appreciate the avant-garde. Vertov wrote, "To this day we raped the movie camera and forced it to copy the work of our eye, and the better the copy, the better the shots were considered. As of today, we will unshackle the camera and will make it work in the opposite direction." A music-like series of dissolves on repeatedly opening shutters. More ambiguous reflections in the glass of a revolving door. A street scene is given a constructivist rendering. There is something of the declamatory quality of the poetry of Walt Whitman in Vertov's writing and filmmaking. He was a Whitman fan. Vertov speaks for the camera. "I am mechanical I, a machine, am showing you a world the likes of which only I can see. I free myself today and forever from human immobility. I am in constant movement. I approach and draw away from objects. I crawl under them. I move alongside the mouth of a running horse. I cut into the crowd at full speed. I run in front of running soldiers. I turn on my back. I rise with an aeroplane. I fall and soar together with falling and rising bodies." This is I, apparatus, manoeuvring the chaos of movements, recording one movement after another in the most complex combinations. Freed from the obligation of shooting 16 to 17 frames per second, freed from the frame of time and space, I coordinate any and all points of the universe wherever I may plot them. My road is towards the creation of a fresh perception of the world. Thus I decipher in a new way the world unknown to you. The Kino Eye darts from scene to scene, the editing becoming rapid. 3, 2, and 1 frame shots of the eye. Some sequences have a high degree of visual dynamism, often realised by cutting abstract shots, including black or white frames, within representational segments. Paramedics assist the injured man. Vertov is making the point that there is a shocking effect in showing a real accident victim as against a contrived accident in an acted film. The Kino Eye widens in sympathy with the pain. Movement alternating, right to left to right, right to left, making a kinetic tension. The film is often compared with the European city symphony genre of the 1920s. It has similarities with Walter Ruttmann's Berlin Symphony of a Capital City, made the year before, which also pioneered flexible camera strategies for shooting in difficult situations. But Vertov strongly disagreed with this comparison. He knew he went much further in reflecting positive and negative aspects of Soviet life, at least in work and play. There's no reference to domestic life. The film makes a strong constructivist connection between people and technology. Hands at work, cutting, polishing, nail filing. The nail filing is edited with Svilova scraping the emulsion off the film for the cement splice. The quick, varied shots are rather like images in a poem. stitching, sewing, shooting. Vertov used editing and special effects such as split screen, superimposition, animation, if these manipulations could bring out the truths of everyday life. The intention was to encourage active intellectual participation of the audience during and after the screening. Similar strategies were rediscovered by experimental filmmakers in the 1960s and 70s, and can now be seen in some television documentaries. But it took nearly 80 years for them to be accepted there. A retinal superimposition is again produced, as Svilova is flashing images too rapidly to be cleared by the retina. The effect has more kinesthetic energy than an optical superimposition. This climactic effect is used several times in the film, and is in keeping with Vertov's aim of reshaping the viewer's perception. Vertov contended that the material and elements of the art of cinematic movement are the intervals, the transitions from one movement to the next, rather than the movements themselves. That is, the optical shock that can occur when one movement touches another, where there is sufficient contrast of direction or content between them. Here the ship and the clouds that follow have a similar right-to-left movement, but the content is very different. The bridge anchors the second shot. Vertov wrote, "The film's goal was not to conceal cinematic rhetoric, but to acquaint the viewers with the grammar of cinema's expressive means." He wanted to reveal truths which normal human vision is not equipped to perceive, using techniques such as slow motion, which he called close-up of time. He called freeze frames paralysed time, reverse motion negative of time, and accelerated motion he called condensed time. His analysis of human movement here takes up where Edward Muybridge left off with his photographic analysis in the 1880s. Here, close-up of time will become paralysed time. And back to close-up of time. Vertov and Svilova are consciously changing the nature of time and duration with the alternating of shots, rapid cutting and camera effects. Vertov wrote, "Kino eye is a victory against time. It is a visual link between phenomena separated from one another in time. Kino eye gives a condensation of time and also its decomposition. The magician deals in illusion and transformation, though film does it better." In a lecture in Paris the year after he made this film, Vertov speculated on further developments in the cinema. From the montage of visual facts recorded on film, Kino eye, we pass to the montage of visual and acoustic facts transmitted by radio eye. We shall go from there to the simultaneous montage of visual, acoustic, tactile, olfactory fact, etc. We shall then reach the stage when we will surprise and record human thoughts, and finally, we shall reach the greatest experiments of direct organisation of thoughts and consequently of actions of all mankind. An ambitious prediction indeed. Another paper referred to Vertov as one of the greatest innovators of Soviet and world cinema, whose work is virtually unknown to Soviet audiences, a dig at the establishment. Another wrote, "The Kinoks take reality and transform it into primary elements, an alphabet of the cinema." In the opening titles, Vertov stated that his experimental film aimed at creating a truly international absolute language of cinema, separate from the language of theatre and literature. He would probably have agreed that there was still much work to be done to realise this, and that sound, for example, edited in the same spirit as the image, may have brought the aim closer to fruition. But in 1929, man with a movie camera made such a huge leap in the production of innovative documentary that it was misunderstood for decades.